Hey, Bobby. Good to
Hey
see
there.
you. How are you?
I am good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. All right. So, just for the audience, Bobby is a professional interventionist. He's also a certified substance abuse counselor with 20 years or so of experience in his field. He's seen it all, done it all, done hundreds of interventions, and that's what we're going to talk about now, which is what makes an intervention successful, what heightens the probability that an intervention is successful. We can't rule out that an intervention is not successful. It's not a 100% guarantee. But by doing certain things and being prepared for certain things, you increase the likelihood that the intervention is going to be successful and that the life of the person will be saved. So, Bobby, I know that you articulate the preparation of an intervention and the implementation of an intervention around four major points. And so we're going to take the first one, which is what you call the root problem. So
Right.
talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, one of the things about it when dealing with an addict, a lot of times they'll tell you, even though they have a raging problem with substance abuse, with substance abuse, they'll tell you, "I don't have a substance abuse problem. I can stop anytime I want." All right. And my next question is, all right, well, how's your life going? And they'll say, well, it's terrible. Okay, well, what's going on? And they'll tell you, well, I don't feel well, or there's always some other problem that they could have. And they're taking the drug as a solution to that problem. A lot of times they're taking the drug to solve that problem. I've had, as an example, I did an intervention I tell this story quite often, but let's get out in Hawaii was out there, and he obviously had a huge alcohol and pill problem, but to him, he's like, I don't have a problem with that, but I do hate people. His problem was society as a whole. And I'm like, well, okay, so if I could help you with that, would you be interested in treatment? He said, yeah, how are you going to help me with that? So I started explaining to him how the treatment program was going to help him with that. And he became very interested at that point. So we want to identify all the problems that the person has that they might be using the drugs or alcohol to solve. If we can do that, then we are likely to have a good positive discourse or conversation with this person as a result of in trying to get him to get help.
Okay. So, do you find that this going to the root problem, you have to go through a number of fancied problems? Like, I have this problem, I have this problem, but they don't touch anything real. And then digging in, you get more to the thing. Is that part of the routine, or is it a different process?
Well, that's a great question actually, because sometimes people will give you unsolvable problems. In other words, they'll give you a reason why there's absolutely no way that you can solve it. So the only excuse is to continue to use drugs or alcohol. And you obviously at that point know, well, this person has got, and it could be legitimate, but most of the time it's not. And it's usually what I call it's the addiction talking to for the person. What they're saying does not make any sense. And although the person is doing all the talking, and you look at the person and you think have somewhat of some sense about them, which I'm sure they do. Not to say they don't, but they're addicted to drugs, and so the drugs and the addiction is doing all the talking for them at that point. So it's good. That's a great question, because now you can separate that from. You can kind of it helps the family and friends know, well, what's really going on, because they've been having all these discussions with the person, and it's been very confusing and very chaotic and very trying, and drains the person. So the family.
Okay, so that behooves you to find out the root cause, the root problem of this guy or
Right.
this person.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're digging in there and having these conversations, and you can kind of find out, and you can see where you're at. But if you know ahead of time, the family, you can actually see a lot of times when we properly prepare for the intervention, that some of these things will start happening, and then the family will go, oh, okay, the light comes on, because now they know that, because they're ready, right? They're prepared for it.
I see. Okay. So then you go to a second point, which is the objections. So this guy is going to blast some objections, maybe many objections, or maybe one or two major objections to you and to the
Right.
family who's doing
Yeah.
the intervention. Tell us how that goes, and how do you prepare the family for that?
Well, one of the things about it is with an intervention, most of the time it's a surprise to the addict. There's several different types of interventions, and sometimes family members feel guilty about, well, I don't want to be tricking him or deceiving the person, and we just have to show up and sit down and have a conversation with the person. But these objections to the person, a lot of times they'll come up with anything. They're usually number one, well, I can't go because of my job. I can't go because I have court. I can't go because I have a doctor's visit. I can't go because, I don't want to be away from my kids. Or I can't go because, I have to pay some bills, or I have things I got to take care of. Right? It's, I'll go. So the truth is there's nothing more important than handling, this drug or alcohol problem, because it obviously could kill the person. So we have to put, even if it's illegal situations, we never put anything ahead of getting the person into the treatment program. So we list these things out, and we know what to expect, and we 99.9% of the time have legitimate rebuttals that the person could then go, oh, okay. Like, for instance, with work, there's the Family Medical Leave Act. There's federal laws in place that protect the person's employment, right? There's also, and you talk about with kids. Well, I don't want to be with my kids that long. Well, don't you want to be with your kids the rest of your life? This is the greatest gift you could give your kids, And a lot of times they'll say, oh, I can't believe you did this to me. Well, the truth is, son, I love you so much, but I really honestly can't believe I'm having to do this. But I will, because I love you so much. So we prepare ourselves for everything that this person's going to say. I mean, they may say some things that I haven't heard before, but it's going to be very, very. I'm very curious to hear it, because I've heard a lot of stuff.
Is there a possibility that the family itself, the people who are part of the intervention, also have objections and feed these objections or justify the objections of the addict with their own objections?
Well, that's true. That's another great question, because we handle those things before we ever get in front of the addict, because I don't want that to be going on, because we can't have any point of agreement, right? And sometimes people will. Oh, well, my son has a court date on Tuesday, right? Well, the truth is we can handle the court. I mean, I've never had anybody get in more trouble for going into treatment and getting help. I mean, the only time that's ever happened is like out of over 20 years, there's one time, and the person was actually absconding from the law and lied to the treatment center and everything else. He was basically trying to hide out. And that was the only time that it ever made it worse for the person, because, he wasn't being honest, and he wasn't there for the right reason. So we can handle, a treatment center a lot of times can handle a lot of those legal issues. So we handle the family ahead of time before we ever get in front of the addict. So
give us another type of objection that a family can have, and that would prevent the intervention from going smoothly.
Well, there's usually like external, a loved one, like a relationship, like the wife or the girlfriend or the boyfriend, or somebody that doesn't want, or a drug using friend that doesn't want the person to get better, right? Or doesn't want to, leave the person to go away. I mean, there's situations where the person, maybe there's some sort of an agreement there, that there's substance abuse agreement there. And sometimes people are afraid, well, if the person sobers up and they get better, they may not want me anymore. It's a really, the dynamic is, you really kind of, after doing this and understanding it, sometimes people go, oh, no, it couldn't be that way. Surely that person is not that selfish or, evil, or whatever you want to call it. But the truth is they are. Their own feelings are more important to them than the actual survival of the person, a lot of times. So we have to very carefully go in there and kind of, expose these things and kind of, and get everybody's agreement that this is what we need to do.
I see. So this is part of your pre-work, like pre-intervention work.
Yes.
The groundwork that you lay down before the whole family coalesces around the exact workout of the intervention.
Yes, 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 exactly. And people say, "Oh, well, it's not going to work." Well, if we go
Okay.
in and do what the family's been doing over and over and over again for years, well, I can tell you, yeah, you're right. It's not going to work. You've been doing it for 15 years and it's not worked yet. So why would we
Right.
go? We have to change things up and we have to approach this um, differently. I got another example of a kid that was just absolutely refusing to get help. And his parents were, you could tell they were like helicopter parents. They were just all over him. And I pulled him into the room. I said, "Look, man," I said, "are your parents all over you?" And he said, "They like," and he said, "Yeah, I can't get away from them, man. They're just all." I said, "Well, I'm trying to help you here. I'm trying to get you to go. If you go to treatment, you can get them off your back for a minute." And I said, "Matter of fact, he was going to California." So I'm like, "You can go to California. Been a nice place." And I didn't think of it like that. And I said, "Yeah." So I walked back out there and said, "Yeah, he's going to go." And I told the parents, I said, his motivation is to get away from you guys for a minute. He'll go to treatment, but if he can get away from you. So, and I wasn't mean to him. They understood. They didn't care. They didn't realize it. They didn't realize what the effect they were having. So they were more than willing to say, "You know what, we'll do whatever we need to do because we love our son." So anyway, there's just all types of things. And you try to do your best to prepare to go in there ahead of time and understand the dynamic of
Got
the
it.
relationship. So
All right, cool. So the next point down the list of things that you have to get off the road and prepare everybody for is
yeah,
reactions.
yeah.
A drug addict is not going to go, yes, let's go to rehab.
Right,
Uh,
right, right.
there's going to be a whole lot of emotions and things like this that are being displayed during the intervention. So, how does the handling the reactions and being able to face the reaction, how does that interact with the process, and how do you prepare the families for that?
Well, that's one of the things I ask him. Well, how do you think he's going to act? When we sit down and we go over this scenario and we, role play to a degree, how do you think they're going to take? What do you think? What's their normal reaction? Oh, he's going to get mad. He's going. We're going to make him mad. Well, okay. I mean, we're probably going to make him mad. I mean, nobody. The truth is, everybody gets the idea. Well, he's got to want it for himself. That is true. The person needs to want to change their life, but nobody ever wants to go to rehab. Nobody, under any circumstances. It's not like you graduate high school and say, "Man, I hope I can go to rehab by the time I'm 25 years old," or 35 for me. But the thing of it is that there's something in the environment that's forced them into the program, and we hope to be able to, the person has to want to change their life. Matter of fact, the truth is the treatment center won't take them with that if they're not willing to sign up for the treatment. So there's only two places that'll take you unwillingly. That's the psychiatric hospital or a jail. So we have to be prepared for any reaction that we're going to get. And we have to be willing. And very seldom do I get a resounding yes. We go through the process. We get the person thinking about it. They deep down they want to change. A lot of times they're looking for a face saver, like something to save face on agreeing to get help, because they feel like a failure. They think they feel like a failure at that point. But we, if they, I've had people, a kid, he was so high on methamphetamine one time he jumped out of a third-story window to get away, to run, and I told him, so we need to block off the windows, because we want to confront if he's high. And they said, "Oh, he won't jump out the window." And sure enough, he did. He ended up, he jumped out the window, jumped over a 6-foot stockade fence, and then run off down the street. He ended up getting thrown in jail. He was in jail for about 3 days and finally came down enough to where we could go talk to him. And then and actually a super nice kid once he wasn't high. So, but he had to go through all that. But we had to be, we prepared for, and anytime family says, "Oh, well, he won't do that," I always expect them, well, it probably will. But we have to be not only expecting the reaction, but also willing to endure it and not react to that person.
That's interesting point I was about to bring up. I have seen in my days of dealing with addicts, the addict trying to coax their mother into not sending them away. Is that something that you've observed?
Well, yeah, I mean, they'll say, "Oh, yeah, I won't use drugs. I'm going to stop. I told you I was going to stop. You can drug test me every day." I'll do this, I'll do that, and what they're asking you to do is now manage their addiction for them. They're asking you to now go to the trouble of having to drug test, having to have more sleepless nights and worry and fret, and versus them now confronting the problem themselves and stepping up to the plate. And admittedly, going to get treatment is a scary thing. It is in reality. Person is a lot of anxiety builds up. I remember the day that I went, and the alternative for me was doomsday. I was going to prison if I didn't go. But I still, when I made the decision to go, I got nervous. Like, oh, I'm going to go confront something and do something there's something I don't know, that I don't know what
So
I'm expecting.
how do you handle with the mother and their maternal instinct? Like or the I'm am a soft-hearted mother, and
Yeah.
I can't tolerate. I can't take can take it when my son is like crying and telling me that he's reformed, that he's on his way, and so how do you handle the mother before the intervention takes place?
That's a great question. There's some preparation that goes into it, and we have to, again, go through that process with the person and make sure that they're willing to, you know, be able to experience that. And that's where sometimes I will bring in another family member, whether they're actively or necessarily, influential with the addict or not. At least they can come in from a ground support type of thing with the person. In other words, like they'll be there to support the mother in her decision and stay strong, because the motherly or humanitarian instinct does kick in. You automatically want to, help this person and try to and believe the person. But the truth is it's not the real person, because, the real person would see the sanity and actually getting help.
Got it. Yeah, that's an important point here. The person that you have in front of you, the addicted
Yeah.
person, is not the real person. The real person is way behind the addiction.
Yes. Yes. That's there. Yes. Yeah. I
All
have
right, so that introduces the last point which you make in terms of what heightened the likelihood that an intervention is going to be successful, and it's what you call hold the line. So you have this basic things where if you cross this or if you go below this, that's not going to work. So tell us a little bit about this
well.
hold the line concept.
Well, you have, one of the things, the very first thing you have to decide for yourself that this person is going, you're going to be firm about your decision that your loved one is going to get help, right? And you have to be firm with that. You have to hold your position. Now, we start from a position of love and care, and we present this in a very loving and very caring way, and we tell the person what we think of them. Obviously there's value in this person. There's a good person in there. We tell them what they mean to us, bring up special moments, and then we tell them how this is affecting us in our life, right? And most people will, they see what it's doing and they say, you know what, I'll do it, because they really care about their family. But if you have someone who, let's say, I'll give you an example of a 27-year-old heroin addict in New York that loved her mother, but her mother poured her heart out, wanted her to get help, had a 7-year-old daughter who didn't know what we were doing at the time. But once she found out, she sent a video to her mother pleading for her mother to get help. And the girl walked off. Now, if you have a mother that can walk away from the 7-year-old daughter, there's not a whole lot of pleading that you're going to be able to do with that person, because the drugs have a hold of them. If that 7-year-old can't convince her mother to come back to her, then there's nothing that you or I are going to say for that. The only other thing that's going to, cause this person to want to get help is either they get thrown in jail and they start getting dope sick, or or some external threat is greater than going to treatment. So you have to sometimes create that, but you have to understand that going in, and you have to hold the line and not let yourself continue to play that game. Or you're going to all that's going to happen is you're going to get drugged down with them. So you have to hold the line and do it very lovingly, but very firm. And
If you feel that the person's the one of the family members resolve is not strong enough to hold the line, that
yeah,
there's a risk that he or she is going to give in during the intervention, cave in, and fuel the addict's resolution not to go to rehab. What do you do with that? How do you deal with that?
we do our best to head that off ahead of time. You know, if the person, you know, sometimes we'll prepare, and the person will say, and if it gets to a certain point, then the person will leave. As long as they don't enable the addict after the intervention, then they could exit the scene, right? And we stay there and we stay strong. As long as they don't say, the addict comes over and wants $20 or whatever, they don't give it to them, and they say, no, you need to go to treatment. Don't call me for help unless you're in treatment. I'll help you if you go to treatment. That's that is long. So we do our best to predict that and prevent that from happening. But if they can see that that person who their mother, father, or whomever it might be, who has been enabling or involved like that, is now holding the line and being firm about it, they're more likely to get help. And the other thing that I want to mention is that I've seen literally chaos for several hours, and as long as we were willing to, the family was able to weather the storm. The addict didn't just say, okay, all right, I'll go, and then be more than happy to go. But I'm talking like 6-8 hours of just knockdown drag out, and we weathered the storm. We got to the other side, and the person finally is like, all right, I'll go, and then drive us to the airport to go to treatment. It's crazy. Because I thought we're never going to make it at this stage because it'd been gone on so long. But the guy finally said, "You know what? I'll go." And he got to he, like I said, weathered the storm. And it's kind of like I always give an example of, it's like a soda pop that you shake up the fizz and the fizz comes out. Eventually it's going to stop fizzing and it's going to run out. It's going to be there. You're okay. So same thing.
Great. So these are great points to use as sticks alongside the preparation for the intervention and the implementation of the intervention. Yes. Okay. Yes. Well, thank you for this, Bobby. Tell us how people contact you when they have a loved one that is addicted to substance or to alcohol, anything that is addictive. What do they do?
They can go to my website at newmaninterventions.com. That's NEWMAN, interventions with an S.com. Or they can call 866-989-4499.
Great. So you've heard that. Contact Bobby. There's nothing more precious than life. When you have the possibility to save the life of an addict, seize the possibility and call Bobby Newman. Thanks very much, Bobby. Talk to you soon for another.
Yes, sir.